Hi folks, Speedway Tag here with a review of Ragemore by Bojan Prakljacic. Hope I pronounced that correctly, sir. Apologies if I didn't. This is a game that's been around for a little while, published by Button Shy Games. Went out of print for a little while and it came back, and I was very keen to get it, so I managed to snap up a copy. Looked at a couple of videos on YouTube to see how it's played, because it is a little complicated little solo game, so it took me a little while to understand the mechanisms and the nuances and the strategies. But once it started to click, I really found myself enjoying this game. It's actually a very clever design. So yeah, props to the designer. It's very well designed. As I said, it is a little bit complex, but if you're willing to put in the time and get to know it, this is a very nice solo experience. The idea here in Ragemore is you're summoning up a party of heroes, which are here. Game's already set up here. You're summoning up a party of heroes, and you're going in for one final battle against this horde of demons and creatures. And it's kind of like a last-ditch effort. And so what's happening here is we've set up the game, and the cards go into various, I guess you could say 5 different areas on your table. Okay, and first of all, the first area are those 2 piles there, which are called your quests. Okay, there's one quest here, another quest here. To set that up, you draw 5 cards from the bottom of the deck and you place them in 2 piles any way you like. You can't have 4 or more cards in one quest, because that would mean you'd lose the game. So we've got it in 3 and 2 here, and you can't have any of the symbols next to an exact same symbol. So I couldn't have 2 crosses next to each other here, which I don't. So that's all fine. And the symbols are actually, they represent skills, they represent what it requires to go on that quest and succeed in that quest. The creatures on the cards below the symbols, I guess, are telling you what you are going to, and sorts of things you'll encounter thematically as you go on those quests. But really it comes down mechanically to those symbols, which I think works really well. Reminds me a lot of an Irem from the Oniverse series, which is my all-time favorite series of games. And so it's a matter of manipulating these symbols in all 5 areas on your tableau. But the quests are there. So your party are going on these quests, trying to complete them, because if you can get, and when you do complete a quest, I'll show you how you do that, you place your completed quests here. I haven't got any at the moment, obviously, but when they are completed, they'll go here. And what I need is 2 groups of 3 or more of the same symbol. So if I can have quests with 3 suns and 3 crosses, or 3 crosses and 3 crowns, or 3 crowns and 3 roads. You can see the different symbols. 3 and 3 there in the quests section. I'm going to win the game. That's how I win, but I can lose 5 different ways. Okay, so anyway, so that's the first section of the board, the quests. The next section of the board that you set up are your heroes. You draw 3 from the bottom of the deck and you put them here. Any of the similar symbols will stack on top of each other, and that's significant for one of the actions later. But again, and these cards are double-sided. Artwork is absolutely fabulous. I can't stop looking at the artwork in this game. It's really great. So on each card, there's the demon side, and then there's a hero side. So really, you're playing with 36 cards, aren't you? Instead of 18, which is always the case with Button Shy. Anyway, and so each of these cards, just like the demonic cards up here in the quests, these have the same symbols at the top left, but they also have these little symbols down the bottom, which dictate how you can actually bring more people into your party. And it also has a strength, hit point number there, 1 and 2 here, in the at the top right of those cards. Forgot to mention in the demonic side, they also have these abilities that trigger when those cards move into the quests. They move into the quests from this section of the game, which are your encounters. There's your deck here, okay? Your deck's all stacked. You can see the top card of the deck. You draw one card here to start. That's your encounter. You do that every single turn. So this part of the theme represents kind of your life in a way, and the meaning of your life, I guess, because when this deck runs out, you lose. Okay? When you lose, when you've got no heroes here, you lose as well. Okay? And so that's something to keep in mind. So we lose if there's four cards in the quest. We lose if there's no quests left, which can happen, which kind of means that you've abandoned your journey. You've become lost. If a fourth card goes into one of these quests, the idea is that you've been overwhelmed by this last-ditch effort to try and defeat these demons, and so 4 cards in a quest, you're overwhelmed. Over here, if the deck runs out, as I said, it's kind of like the point to your life, your sustenance, your provisions, the reason for why you're here has run out, and the access to what you need runs out. So that's the theme there. And over here is your encounter card for the turn, and so you interact with that card each turn. One last area I need to mention is going to be here, which is the graveyard. And when you get into fights and things with these creatures, cards will go into this graveyard. If there's 3 or more in here, thematically you've spread too much death and destruction on this whole quest that you're on, and you will lose the game. So we don't want more than 3 cards, or 3 or more cards here. And some of these abilities will send cards to the graveyard, just like this one. Move 1 card from the graveyard to the bottom. Oh, well, that's a good card. That actually takes 1 out of the graveyard. So that's a good ability. But some of them send them here, like this. Kill the next card. Kill means send the next encounter to the graveyard if this ability activates. So, all right, so 5 different ways to lose the game, 5 different places for cards. The way a turn goes is you flip 1 card from the deck to become your first encounter, and then you have to deal with that. You've got 4 different things you can do on your turn. The first thing that you can do is fight that encounter. Well, it's actually the 3rd thing you can do, but I like explaining that first because it's the simplest. Okay, you can actually fight that encounter and get rid of him. And therefore, if you get rid of him, here's the thing. If you don't get rid of him, he moves to these quest piles, right? And the more cards that move here, the more likely you're going to be faced with a situation where there's 4 in a quest, in which case you lose. So you don't really want them to move here too much. And so sometimes you're going to have to fight them and get rid of them. And so all you have to do to fight is you pick one of your heroes, which is not covered. And sometimes a hero will allow you to add another hero to their task. So this hero's got a plus, so I could use him and him. Would make my total 1 + 2, 3. Let's say I did that. This guy's strength is 2, so 3 beats 2. And I would be able to take this card, flip it over. So he's defeated, flip it over, and put him into my hero tableau, and so I would gain another hero, which is very handy at this point. Okay, and so that's how you fight. If I allocated a hero to that fight and lost, in that case, I would flip my hero who lost to its enemy side and place it into the graveyard. Okay, so you don't want to pick fights that you're going to lose too often because you're going to fill the graveyard. Remember, if there's 3 in here, you lose the game. So and also, if the total is equal, you both go to the bottom of the deck there. So that's how you fight. So you can deal with this card if its ability is stressing you out a little bit too much, which it is, right? Because if this moves here, its ability triggers and it's going to kill a card and put it in the graveyard. So I would be looking to deal with this card. So why don't I do that? Okay. This hero is going to match with this hero because he's got a plus. He's going to defeat this. This card is going to come into my hero tableau. That's the end of that turn. Then we flip another one, okay? And then we see what are we going to do with this. Okay, he's got 3. Okay, so he's not as easy to deal with. So what will we do with him? So you've got these lovely case of actions to decide. The first time we fought. Another action you can do is to explore. So you're going to choose, when you explore, you're going to choose, okay, I'm not going to deal with him yet. I'm going to go and start working on my quests, which means you move up to these two piles, your quest piles, and you're trying to get cards from there, remember, into your completed quests tableau. The way you get cards from here, again, it's a symbols game here, okay? It's thematic as well, but when it comes down to it, you're concentrating on those symbols. And the way to get quests from here into here is to look at the icons on the bottom of your heroes and send them on the quest. Okay, so let's say I wanted to send this hero on a quest to try and get some of those symbols, get some of those cards. This hero has got a cross and a road on him. If I can find a quest that's got a card that's got a cross and a road in the quest, I can take those two cards. And lo and behold, this quest has got a cross and a road. So that would be great. You have to collect them from the same quest. I couldn't take the cross from here and the road from here. All right, so I would send this hero on into that quest, and he will collect the cross and the road from there. This hero then flips to the bottom because he's exhausted going on that quest. It took a lot out of him, and in fact, it even compromised his morals, and he's turned into an evil thing now, right? But remember, he collected these two cards. So now, on my completed quests, right, I have a religious quest completed and a wandering in the wilderness type quest, being the road. Apologies, I like to create my theme as I go along. It makes me enjoy the game even better. And so that's exploring. So now have a look, right? My quests have got one card and another quest with two cards. If this quest goes down to 0, I can't add any more cards to there. So you have to be very careful. And if both quests go down to 0, I lose the game. All right, after exploring, you still have to deal with this encounter. Now, because I didn't fight it, he has to go somewhere. All right, so where he goes is into the quests, right? So he is a religious quest, the cross. So I can place him in either of these two as long as he doesn't go next to another cross symbol. So I might place him there. But the minute that encounter goes into your quests, you have to trigger the ability. And it says, move one card from the graveyard to the bottom. Now, that's a really good card for me because I'd be able to get rid of cards from the graveyard, but there's no cards in the graveyard at the moment. So he will just move there. The effect has no effect effectively. No effect effectively. I think that's what I said. All right. And then you go again. So then you draw another card for an encounter. And the third main action that you can do, I'll show you that now, and that is recruiting more characters into your party and turning them into heroes. And the way you do that is very similar to exploring. You look at your heroes here, you pick one of them, let's say this cross, this hero with the cross skill, and then you send him out, and he can actually collect a card with a cross from any pile that you can see here. Okay, and even this one, if I sent this hero out, he could collect the road and the sun cards from any of these piles. So he might collect the road from here and the sun from here. Okay, there is one restriction here. Okay, you can't collect cards that have got, where is it? There, those red skulls, because they cannot be recruited. They are evil to the core and they'll never come onto your side. All right. But some of these cards don't have the red skull, so I could recruit them. So what I could do is I might decide to send this guy out to go and maybe recruit. The cross might recruit this guy in the encounter. There's where the strategy comes in, okay? And there's almost unlimited strategy in this game. I might not want this card to trigger later, so to stop that from happening, I'm going to recruit him. Okay, so I'm going to recruit him to my group, and the one I used to recruit has been corrupted by doing that, and it goes to the bottom of the deck there, and that's recruiting. Okay, now that wasn't a very good decision to make, because in the end I gave up a card that had some positive hit points for a card that has 0 hit points. But you know, you can collect 2 roads here in exploring or recruiting later. And then again, you would then take the next card and do all those things again, make those decisions again. The 4th thing you can do is just simply pass. You don't do anything. That card goes into the quests as I showed you before, triggers its ability. That ability is not too dangerous. It just means you shuffle the deck. So you could do that to get this card off the top of the deck. That's an interesting strategy. It's a game of manipulation, folks. You are trying to manipulate these symbols while enjoying the theme, to try and get the difficult cards away from there, to manipulate these piles so that they would work for what your heroes have got to offer. In other words, so they can get in there and get the cards over here for you to win. Remember, 3 of the same here in 2 groups will win. You're trying to keep cards away from the graveyard. So far, I've managed to do that. There's some killer cards here, though. See, that's a demon with a strength of 3. And there's some very interesting other abilities that you want to avoid. This guy says if there's at least 1 card in the graveyard, add this card to the graveyard. All right, so that would make 2 cards in the graveyard, which would accelerate the end of the game for me. So this is very much a fun manipulation of the symbols. I love how the symbols work slightly differently in each aspect of your board. They work differently here. You're thinking about the symbols differently here, from the encounters to the quests to the heroes to the finished quests. Sometimes those abilities will annoy you by pulling completed quests out of here and back into the deck after you've spent almost all the trouble to try and get them. It's frustrating, but super fun. I haven't probably covered everything, but I just wanted to add my thoughts to this great game. There's lots of videos and there's some great playthroughs. The designer himself has done some great playthroughs as well, which you could look at and get into more of the nuts and bolts. But I'm just here to tell you that if you're willing to put in the time and create a bit of theme in your mind and connect the theme to what you're doing, if you like that. I really like doing that. I like feeling like the mechanisms of the game do make sense thematically as well. And it's a little bit of a challenge with this one, but it can be done, and it's worth it because the actual design and the mechanisms of the game are really good. It's really got that Oniverse feel to it if you know that series of games. Artwork is fantastic. I think there are still copies on the Button Shy website, so I would recommend it. Ragemore. Thank you, guys.